Two sleep, still draft day. It is S&L Landry, Cody, Stoots with you straight from NRG. We got introduced to CJ Gardner-Johnson today, or CD Deuce, whatever he wants to be called. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, the man of many names, the man that kind of brings the juice to the Texans. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about if anything else stuck out among the other guys that they brought up to the podium. And there are some quotes from two guys that I think their content this time around draft day is as good as it gets when it comes to mainstream media. We'll talk about that and how it connects the Texans to possibilities as well as a trade that I've been kind of pushing. But Stoots, we finally got to hear from CJ Gardner-Johnson. A little bit of a pleasant surprise because yesterday they said it was going to be Christian Kirk, Petrie, and Cam Robinson. And then out came CD, as he said he wants to be called,
with a ridiculous hat,
a Cam Newton hat. I'm still not quite sure where he got that hat from, but he said that Mario Edwards had something to do with it and said he was soft. He called CJ Stroud light-skinned, and he also had some other interesting things to say. So we got introduced to it, did not disappoint. This was the headline maker, if you will, the exciting of the fan base, the excitement of the fan base. Here was the money quote, if you will, from CJ GJ.
But nothing. He ain't bring me here to win no division or no conference. So if I'm here to help win the Super Bowl, that's gonna be the the reason. But I think people know. A lot of people look at this team as like, oh, they got a lot of great pieces, but me to you, I think it's more than just a lot of great pieces. You have a great culture here, great organization. I think the more you fill this up with winners, not just me. Coach D'Amico was a winner. Runner Darby was a winner. Will was a winner. So you just fill the room up with winners. I think you're going to get what you want, and I think we're going to get it real soon.
All right, so there you go. Super Bowl bust.
And I think the way Randy McElroy asked that question and then his immediate response was pretty intriguing too, because Randy just asked, hey, what have you thought of D'Amico Ryans so far and what he sort of sets for the tone for this team? And then the tone, according to CJ Gardner-Johnson, is win a damn championship. You're not here to win the division. You're not here to win the AFC. You're here to win a damn championship. And so I don't anticipate at any point D'Amico Ryans is going to walk to that podium and say, well, our only goal is to win the championship. But look, we know behind closed doors, he's telling those guys, look, we're not here to repeat AFC South again. We're here to take it further than it's never been here before.
I still think CD should be on our stream, man. He has a YouTube. It's not, it's kind of seems a little bit new. He posts to it. I just feel like this would be a good platform for him to come through and talk his shit. Now, if I was an employee of the Texans, I would probably say, that's kind of scary. You put him like unfiltered in this area with myself. I don't know that they have to worry about you getting him in trouble, but I
look at it. Look at this. This hat is crazy.
It's legit. And I mean, it's after they just lifted weights. It's not like it's a pregame fit. Like they're all just lifting weights and walking around. So that makes it even a little bit more wild.
Is that a gold safety pin on the front?
Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
It's just what a crazy.
But I still think he should come on the stream. I think he should hop on the stream.
I'd love to
push up the YouTube, man. Get the numbers up.
I sent a picture of CJ Gardner-Johnson to our buddy Brooks Cabina, who covered him in Philadelphia, and Brooks's response is, "Oh my God, look at that hat."
Yeah.
And then Brooks has said, "There's going to be some fun moments with the microphone from CJ Gardner-Johnson."
Yeah, I do wonder what that's like. And another guy that was up there, it is S&L. Another guy that was up there, someone that plays in the same, I won't say the same position, but I guess he's considered the same position. He had some things to say. We'll get to that in a sec, but first let's go to the soup.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
HDAV Traveler says, afternoon, everyone. Is the draft almost here? LOL. Yes, it is. 2 sleeps till draft day. Dun. 2 sleeps till draft day.
Can't get here fast enough.
And we want you there once again, Saturday at 11 a.m. at Karbach Biergarten. We will be partying after the super stream. It's going to be a lot going on, a lot of content throughout that day, but we want you there at Karbach. Spread the word. We hope to see you there. We don't want to be losers who have no one showing up to their party. Cody might have been used to that in his childhood with his birthday parties, but I'm used to it popping. So,
hold on. You think the neighborhood was missing a Mama Stoots party with some homemade cake and desserts and sweets? Get the hell out of here. You're an idiot. They might not have come for me, but they weren't missing the party.
I think you just ate the cake yourself and cried. Here's
Don't project on me.
Trill Kick X. Nick got a run to turn in Banks pick like Frank Ross on a block kick led return. Would they run to the thing for Banks? There is some movement on Banks mania that is kind of intensifying that we'll talk about in a sec. Colton Flom says that's what stylish is, Cody.
Should I take a CJ Gardner-Johnson hat to TV Sunday?
No. The mustache is your style. Landry and Cody, that hat he was wearing was style-ish. Yes, see, he has the ish. He did the separate, so he gets it. Trill Kick X again. Metchie getting Debo by CJ, GJ, and campaign start yet. Yeah, he said something about Metchie. What was it he said about Metchie?
He said, somebody asked, what do you prefer to be called or something like that? Or it came up and he said, seedy, or 8. And then he goes, by the way, Metchie going to have to come off that.
Well, you might get your wish. You might have to wait till after camp, but I mean, you're probably going to get your wish. Metchie needs to come off the number for sure. Or else the number will come off him sooner rather than later if they continue to improve at the wide receiver position.
If let's see here, I'm trying to think. If Metchie
he's not even kidding. He's being open about wanting that jersey.
Yeah, so if
that's what he was talking about.
If Metchie changes the number, then it costs Metchie money. But obviously, CJ Gardner-Johnson could buy it if he wants it. So I don't know how much money it costs Metchie, but it costs because you can't change your number. I don't know why I know this.
I think you have to buy the jerseys that were made.
Yeah, you have to pay you have to write.
How many Metchie jerseys were made?
I mean, how much money does John Metchie have? Like, I mean, that'd be my thing. Is like, I understand he's a second round pick, but it's not like those guys are gazillionaires, So it's if CJ Gardner-Johnson wants it, write a little check. You can have 8 before training camp gets going. If not, wait till cutdown day. Then you can have whatever you want.
It is S&L. Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you straight from NRG, 2 sleeps away from the draft. Again, the Karbach party. We want you there. Saturday, day 3, react to the first 2 days. That's April 26th. That's a few days away. So be there, be square. Jalen Petrie spoke as well. Pretty generic stuff from Jalen Petrie. Nothing too crazy. Nothing's really overly specific, but clearly a guy that they trust and clearly a guy that he's excited about the defense. He basically named everybody by name.
Yeah, he started going through. He was like, yeah, excited to be out there with Will and Daniil and Aziz and Christian Harris and Kamari and Sting. And he just kept going and going, add name and name after name. So, yeah, Jalen Petrie, I mean, he did say one kind of like, hey, I know there's things I need to get better at in that position. And, we've talked about the coverage element of that position, how it hasn't looked good for him. So, I mean, he knows it's not a finished product there at that spot, but they clearly trust him. And that's that. I mean, you make the guy the highest paid nickel in football, he's going to be on the field. So that seems like how they're going to play defense most of the time.
Yeah. So it's not, and it'll be interesting to see how they balance the linebackers and what they do with that. We also heard from Cam Robinson, really kind of generic. I cannot emphasize how his mannerisms and the way in which he delivers his message reminds me of Blake Fisher. Mm-hmm. No, that is not a race card. But between the beard, kind of just the matter of fact, all that, it was very Blake Fisher-esque from Cam Robinson.
I did like Cam Robinson when I asked him, I said, hey, D'Amico Ryans preaches competition. Are you comfortable with competition? Because I don't know that he always was when he was in Jacksonville. And he's like, yeah, I'm fine with it. And competition's good for everybody. And it's not like competition like you want to, crush your teammate, but competition will make everybody better.
Yeah, he's basically saying like not unhealthy competition, but
Right.
healthy competition. Really just iron sharpening iron.
I don't think that was always the case with Cam Robinson because he famously had a press conference in Jacksonville after they drafted Walker Little. And somebody asked, "What's your relationship with Walker?" And his only response was, I talked to Walker. That's all he offered. So I'll be interested if the Texans end up drafting a tackle if Cam Robinson has I talked to Josh Connerly.
I mean, they gave him 14 mil. I think he'll be all right.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think he'll figure it out and make do with whatever the heck he can. So those were the three guys that we talked to. We were going to talk to Christian Kirk, but Christian Kirk was he had some stuff going on. So we still haven't heard from Christian Kirk, but we heard from.
They just don't like to let those wide receivers talk, do they? It took forever to hear from Stephon Diggs last year, taking forever to hear from Christian Kirk.
I was joking with one of the employees before that they have like a quarter of a year rule where anytime anyone interesting gets signed, you have to wait at least a quarter of a year to talk to them.
Well, I mean, we got C.J. Gardner-Johnson a lot earlier than we thought we were.
They did not, but that wasn't what they told us was going to happen, which was a pleasant surprise. But that wasn't what we thought.
Sometimes you pivot.
He just wanted to chat, man.
He probably just bought the hat, wanted to show it off. You know, like when you get something new when you're a kid, you want to wear it to school. Like,
yeah,
got to show this off.
I do wonder, like, he's gonna provide some bulletin board material during the season, and he's gonna want all the smoke. He's gonna want all of the smoke. Jesus, Patrick. On the chat, Patrick says, "Did Petrie name EJ Speed?" He did not. He did not name EJ Speed. EJ Speed was not named.
There was thankfully no EJ Speed questions today.
No, but there was a Cooper DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell question. So they kind of replaced EJ. But yeah, I don't really I do think that D'Amico's probably going to have to. I don't know if he's going to be able to, but there's going to be times where like Gardner Johnson's talking shit about the Colts or the Jags or doing something. He did it with Dallas this year. He had a pick six early on, though. It was the final one of the final games of the season. So he's going to talk crap. I mean, you asked what he brings, and he said talking crap. It's not like something that someone else labels on him. Like he literally said talking crap was one of his three attributes that he brings to the team. So
you're not totally buying that he grew up after winning a Super Bowl, and that's not going to be a problem in the future?
I didn't know what he was talking about. I think he just kind of got lost in the sauce because I asked him about like everything that he'd been through, and he said, I guess you can connect it because he said that it woke him up and he wasn't comfortable. But then he said that he established himself when he won a Super Bowl. So it's almost like he likes to be pissed. And not like angry, but he likes to have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder when it comes to this. He seems like he's really acclimated quite nicely to this. I think that last year, and I want to ask Joe Mixon about this, but I know there's always like a possibility that you're going to get the hard ass Joe Mixon thing, which is part of it. I'm okay with it. But like now that it's been a year, like you take a step back and kind of look at how crazy last offseason was, because from Joe's perspective, he'd never been traded. There wasn't really like a financial reason to do it. They seemed to like him there. He'd been there his whole career. And all of a sudden, boom, you're in Houston. Like it with like at least Gardner Johnson has been traded before. So he like has like some sort of idea of what it's like. And there was financial reason and all that. I just I think the Mixon offseason last year is just nuts to me when you really look at it and think about it.
Yes, especially when he'd been such an integral part of what they had done. And like you said, financially, they could have easily kept Joe Mixon around, but they
Zach Moss, baby.
On. Yeah, how's that working out for him?
Zach Moss.
Broken neck like Kurt Angle.
Montejano Aaron says, "Let's go Texans." Okay, there you go.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you very much. So yeah, no EJ Speed questions today. If you're keeping score, and there are some sickos in the chat that are keeping score.
Look, there's 70 guys on the roster, whatever. So you take it for what it's worth. Will Anderson, first day in the building, maybe hasn't met EJ Speed when he had that interaction yesterday. Is there a chance EJ Speed's just not in the building? Is there a chance EJ Speed didn't show up because it's voluntary?
I said it yesterday on the stream. I would assume, and I credited you with it. Are you trying to keep that a secret? Like I think that would make the most logical sense.
On you talking about on the night stream?
Yeah, because I think
what is this, the Marvel universe? I got to watch everything now. I was just breaking it for the people here on S&L.
No, but I mean, we had the conversation, and you said it. Like, yeah, I would say that the thing that makes the most sense with that reaction that Will Anderson had would be that Will Anderson's a rule follower. There's pretty strict rules in this offseason activity to the point where D'Amico Ryans can't even go on the damn field and can't really like say too much. And Will Anderson was asked about someone who maybe wasn't there, and he didn't know if he was allowed to talk about someone who wasn't there because it's voluntary. So that would make the most sense for me. I thought, and I credit you with that potential solved mystery that would make the most sense.
I think that would be the like the spin a wheel of outcomes. I think that's the most likely outcome.
Yeah, I think I Must Paneling says he could have done it. I think he didn't know if he was allowed to talk about people who weren't there. That'd be my thought. That's what I think was the thing, because it's really weird. Like D'Amico can be there, he can say hi, but as they're walking to the field, he can't go. So like we see players like walking from the practice field, D'Amico can't go on that field. There's weird ass rules. So I think maybe the weird ass rules just kind of got in his head.
I also think there's maybe a chance that the soft spokenness of the person asking the question, he didn't understand who it was, and he was just trying to be like, "Oh, yep, sure."
Stone Alone 5X's says, salute to the S&L family. Salute to you for being a part of it. Again, I'm going to say it again. Hope to see you at the draft party Saturday, the 26th, 11 a.m. At Karbach Biergarten. Let's get into some things that two guys that I think cover the draft very well from the mainstream media have said about the Texans. One of them, I think, is the kind of the Texans whisperer when it comes to what they do, just because of the prediction he made 2 years ago, Daniel Jeremiah. And the other one is Albert Breer, who has had some things to say. Let's for the sake of this, let's start with the new face of the Monday morning quarterback, Albert Breer, and just a couple things that he said that have got the attention of Cody. And I'm going to throw a quote from Daniel Jeremiah's NFL draft, the 2025 top 150, that might have you thinking about a certain player and what D'Amico Ryans could do with him, as well as a trade possibility that I think makes a lot of sense. Let's start with Albert Breer, though. Cody, take it away.
Breer, with his notebook that this is the time of year you're just dumping the notebook, and he's hearing that the Texans are sniffing around on a trade up. And I have to imagine this is for one of the notable offensive linemen. So if you started to see a slip from Will Campbell, if you started to see a slip from Armand Membu, Campbell from LSU, Membu from Missouri, and then, of course, if you saw Kelvin Banks get into range for the Houston Texans from Texas. So that's what I would assume most people would think about when the Texans are thinking trade up, and when they're talking trade up is offensive line. And then Breer even listed a couple of different names. And I think he kind of missed on this a little bit, just based on how we think about how the Texans approach things. He listed Zabel in a small trade up, Gray Zabel from North Dakota State. And then he listed a little bit more of a significant move, a move up for Banks from Texas. And I've said this before, I feel like I'm only in favor of a move up for Banks. And I don't anticipate Will Campbell or Armand Membu getting it very far down the board. But if Banks was there and they wanted to make a move for him, they wanted to trade up for Kelvin Banks, I'm in favor of having that conversation and trying to make it happen. One more note from Breer that I thought was also interesting is he's explained that they're doing a lot of work on offensive lineman Donovan Jackson from Ohio State, which to me felt like, hey, if we can't find a trade partner, maybe we'll just pick this guy at 25 if he's there. But I couldn't see him trading up for Grace Abel, not with Nick Caserio's history of small school guys not being on the board, basically. And I could definitely see them making a move for Banks. I would say this: they make a move for an offensive lineman. I mean, they're creating a tremendous amount of pressure on that guy.
Well, that's fine. I mean, if they think he's the guy, it's fine. I'm not worried about the pressure on the guy at all. Like, who cares?
Okay.
I mean, like, what do you mean? Like,
old dismissive Landry.
I'm just asking, like, what do you want to do? Give him a massage? Like, what's the, like, if he has pressure, he has pressure. Like, Will Anderson had pressure. He was a good player. Like,
Okay.
they traded a lot for him.
Well,
So what?
just Madden now? You just put him on the field. The brain doesn't matter?
No.
Guy's mentality doesn't matter? I mean, this guy's going to be the new face of the fucking offensive line. It doesn't matter, though, huh? You got to replace Laramie. They use the picks to get from Laramie Tunsil to get this guy, but it doesn't matter. Most disappointing position group on the freaking team last year. This guy's the new face of it. That doesn't matter, though. It's the only guy that's got a contract for the next few years on the offensive line, but that doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter, Landry.
I didn't say that it doesn't matter that he's.
No, it doesn't matter. No, pressure's not real.
What do you mean? What's the pressure mean? Like, what is that?
Pressure's not real.
So what does that mean? Like, there's going to be pressure on anyone. What do you mean? I'm just asking what it means.
What does pressure mean?
Like, do you not do it or what? Like, is it just you just think he's gonna?
You don't think pressure affects guys?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I mean, if you trade up, I'm sure there's pressure. If you're drafted in the first round, I'm sure there's pressure. I'm sure there's increased pressure. I'm sure it happens. If they're drafted at 25, there's probably going to be some pressure.
Yeah, but not as much pressure as you use the Laramie Tunsil picks to go get the guy at 15.
As far as the trade up goes, I do wonder if, because Kansas City's behind them and Kansas City might want to improve their offensive line and Minnesota's in front of them, maybe that's where you just try to get out of that cluster, because we've talked about the cluster in front of them at 24 with Minnesota, who's trying to trade back with just 4 picks, and then all the other teams. And Kansas City is a team that could hop over you and perhaps get an offensive line after they got completely just bitch slapped in the Super Bowl in the trenches. So I think that could be maybe one of the things to keep an eye on, and maybe why they would want to trade up or have to trade up.
Breer also said if Minnesota was sticking and picking, he thinks offensive line is where they would go.
Mm-hmm.
And he also mentioned Green Bay as a potential offensive line team.
Yeah.
That's a team that's a couple picks in front of you as well. So and then Breer didn't say this, but the Chargers are a team that you could think about for offensive line as well. I know they've got 2 really good tackles, but their interior could use some help. So, if you're the Texans and I wouldn't fall in love with any of these offensive linemen with the teams that are in front of you. But if you do, you're going to probably have to move to get one of the 2 top guys that they have been sort of linked to and maybe enamored with.
Yeah, you might be right behind the offensive line run, which is not somewhere that anyone wants to be, especially this ball club. So that could be where the trade up, like all the dialogue increases.
Is there any other player that you're intrigued in a trade up that's not an offensive lineman?
Well, kind of, but it's just the quote, and it's based on what we've been saying. And I asked D'Amico Ryans the question about guys maybe not being swarmy with this guy in mind, and it was Walter Nolan, who's top 5 talent, which we agree with. And I think in order to do a clear case study on how you may or may not feel about Walter Nolan, I think the best way from the localized POV is ask yourself 2 questions. Number 1, how would I feel if the Texans got Walter Nolan? Ask yourself that. And then number 2, ask yourself, what if the Philadelphia Eagles got Walter Nolan? How would that make you feel? And I think the combination of those things kind of just makes you look at things different when you're talking about Walter Nolan and what it can be. But I thought it was interesting with Daniel Jeremiah, who had him just in front of the top 30. I think he had him 28th on his best prospect list. But the final 2 sentences on the Daniel Jeremiah 150, and for the sake of reference,
28th.
On our super chats or on our super streams, Daniel Jeremiah is going to be the best player available list we're going to use. So we will use Daniel Jeremiah just for the sake of it, and we'll have the best players available. He has Nolan at 28, but these final two sentences from Daniel Jeremiah, and we'll go back to something else Breer said that really have a lot of you using your imagination. But these are the final two sentences that he said, and you put these with what D'Amico said yesterday when I asked him about indirectly about Walter Nolan. Quote, overall, Nolan is extremely talented and disruptive, but he hasn't come close to reaching his potential. If he lands with the right scheme / coach, he could emerge as one of the better players in this draft. Close quote from Daniel Jeremiah.
I mean, look, if you told me that all of a sudden Walter Nolan gets on the Houston Texans and in 2 years he's Jalen Carter-esque, I would not be surprised by that. I don't know how he gets on the Houston Texans, though. Like, there's got to be teams in the first 24 picks that want
Why would Cincinnati not draft him with what their defense was last year? Like, if you can get like an impact player, why would Cincinnati not do that?
I think they're kind of dumb, but that's why I think Cincinnati wouldn't do that.
Relying on stupidity can sometimes get you somewhere, but it's not the best plan.
I would tell you that that's a guy that San Francisco could do some wonders with. That's a guy that I know Atlanta's been linked to edge players, but they got rid of Grady Jarrett this year, and so plopping him in the middle of that Atlanta defense. I mean, what if Walter Nolan was playing next to Big Vita Vea in Tampa Bay? Like that'd be sick. And then the Chargers. I mean, they had a bunch of pass rush leave the building, and they had some defensive tackles leave the building. So like, there's a lot of teams that it makes sense. Now, there's other needs for those teams too, just like there's other needs for the Texans. There's no like. I like this defensive tackle class. It's deep. There's guys that probably be key rotational players into the third or maybe even fourth round. There's not a bunch of dudes who are going to be sitting there second round on that could ever turn into Walter Nolan's best case. Walter Nolan's best case is domination.
And Noah Outlaw says on the chat that just not in the business of D linemen in this draft. If they wanted Nolan, they shouldn't have signed 50 defensive linemen. They signed a lot of edge guys. They didn't really sign very many D linemen. So I agree with you. And in a perfect world, like if we're just listing needs and all drafts were the same, I would agree. But I mean, they signed a crap ton of edge guys. The interior still leaves a lot to be desired.
Well, there's
outside of Rankins, and there's no long-term guy there. So
there's one guy that's under contract beyond this year. That's Mario Edwards.
Yeah. And
a defensive tackle. So Tim Settle's contract expires this year. So does Sheldon Rankins, Kurt Heinisch, Tommy Togiai. Like, you know, they look. You listen. I just listed off the crew. They're getting a defensive tackle at some point, or they should. They could use a couple more bodies there at that defensive tackle spot. But you know, if they wanted to go like Walter Nolan, trading up for him might be tough. If it's a couple spots, it's a little easier to digest. 25, I've come around on the idea of him versus some of these other offensive linemen just because I mean, you're talking about a defensive line that nobody's got. Nobody's got that defensive line. If Nolan turns into one of the best young defensive tackles, nobody's got anything close to what you have with Hunter and Anderson on the edges and Nolan in the middle.
Yeah, Greg with the counter to this talk of O-line. Texans can't be set on drafting O-line in the first round. It'll be a big mistake, just like what happened with Green. Take the best available regardless of position. And that's the thing for me. Like, we should know that investment doesn't necessarily equal production. You don't just because you invest in the offensive line doesn't assure anything. And if they're going to be coached up, that's fine. But I also think that the value of a guy like a Walter Nolan being his best potential version of himself on this defense, I think it's more of a resource to CJ Stroud than just drafting the best guard just to draft the best guard. Having an elite defense with the best edge pairing in the league, one of the best young D linemen, again, we're going best case, and then a really, really good secondary. So sometimes it doesn't line up like that, but yeah, I feel you on that.
I just trying to think like, I mean, Nolan and Banks are really the only guys that I'd be like, okay, the trade up makes sense here. Outside of that, just stay at 25 and pick what's there. I like Tyler Booker, the guard from Alabama. Trading up for him that feels very rich. Like that just feels like a little bit too much. I don't believe they're going to draft Zabel, just because of the small school thing. Even though he could play all the interior spots, I like a trade back more than I like a trade up. I mean, I know we've talked about this a couple different times. If Kansas City calls you, or Detroit calls you, or one of those teams at the top part of the second round call you, move back and add some more stuff and find you some solid players there right there on day 2 and make day 2 a big ass party.
Speaking of party, it is S&L Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you. Coming up, a trade that will excite you that the Texans should entertain. But after the Super Stream on Thursday and Friday, right here on S&L, where we will be with you throughout the entirety of the draft. We want to be with you for day 3. Little break from us from streaming. We're going to sit back, drink beer, eat pizza at Karbach Pizza and Pints in the Biergarten at 11 a.m. It's one of my favorite days, day 3. We started this tradition last year. Before S&L was even in existence, we probably had about 50 to 100 people joining us watching this. We're talking about everything going on with the Texans. We're just cutting up. We're chilling. We're going to be drinking beer and eating pizza. We'll have some special stuff planned as well, and we want you out there. So be out there Saturday, April 26th, 11 a.m., out there at one of the Houston staples, Karbach, in the Biergarten.
Tons of parking out there too, so you don't have to worry about the parking situation. You actually park at Pizza and Pints, just come right through the pizza place. Boom, you're right there in the Biergarten. They'll have the big screen set up for us with the sound on, so it's going to be great.
All right, so here's the trade, and I've brought this up on the other channel. I heard something else that Albert Breer said, and you brought this up. This was Albert Breer talking about the Detroit Lions. Quote, receivers another spot to consider with a 5th-year option decision coming on Jameson Williams, and some in NFL circles believing he could be traded. Close quote from Albert Breer. All right, well, this is interesting because the reality of the situation is good teams that have good players that are going to be due for contracts relatively soon are going to have to say goodbye to good players. It's the reality of the situation. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's a better receiver. They have one of the best tackles in the league. They are about to have to pay Aiden Hutchinson. They're probably going to pay Gibbs. They're probably going to pay Laporta. And when it comes to the pecking order of paying guys, Jameson Williams might be a tough decision to make, and it might be one of the decisions that they have to make to say goodbye.
By the way, they've already got one of the most expensive quarterbacks in football.
Yes, and Jared Goff, and they just gave him a deal. So that's going to intensify. So Jameson Williams is a guy that I think the Texans should consider trading for. And here's the reasoning why. I think there's a number of reasons why, but on top of the fact that the Lions, it might make sense for them, and let's just pretend for the sake of this that they are considering trading him. Jameson Williams makes sense for a number of reasons. First of all, I don't know what Jameson's relationship is with the new OC, but it felt like him and Ben Johnson kind of had a little something going, and Ben Johnson really valued him as a player, and Ben Johnson's gone. So naturally, people are saying, well, what about the Bears? They're not trading him to the Bears. So get rid of that. They are not trading Jameson Williams to the Bears. But from a Texans perspective, you have extra draft equity. It's not going to cost a first-round pick. So I don't know if you're talking about one of the thirds and change or whatever. It's not going to cost a first-round pick, and you're really not a threat to the Lions. They're not going to look – it's not like one of these NFC teams. You're not really a threat to the Lions, so they're probably going to be more willing to trade to you. The other thing is we've already acknowledged the Texans need wide receiver. They need wide receiver. They need speed. There are very few players as explosive as Jameson Williams in the league, and on their roster, there's damn sure not anyone close. The other thing that I think is interesting is Nick Caserio and Nick Caley have mentioned versatility when it comes to wide receivers lining up. And Jameson Williams lines up 20% of the time in all 4 of the primary positions. He lines up over 20% on the far left and far right, and over 20% on the left slot and right slot. So he's all over the place. So he has that type of versatility. The other thing is the cost. We've acknowledged the draft equity, but the worst case scenario is you don't give him the contract and it's basically a rental. We just saw him rent Stephon Diggs for a second round pick, trading back 19 spots, however you want to look at it. This is a rental. Yeah, this is a rental where not only is the upside a little bit higher, it could be a long-term solution to a position that you really need to pay or you need to acquire talent at wide receivers. So a guy that's 24 years old that just had a 1,000-yard season, Jameson Williams, it might make sense for the Texans to kick the tires on this. And the other thing is, we've talked about this and we're tired of talking about it. There's not a lot of wide receiver value in the draft early on. You're damn sure not getting a player as good as Jameson Williams. So I think this is a trade that they should at least be open to and consider. If he's actually on the market, I think you at least make the phone call. And some bonus reasons, you can do appropriate research because he was at Ohio State with both of your faces of your franchise, which we heard from yesterday. He was at Ohio State with Will Anderson, and then he was at Alabama he was at Ohio State with CJ Stroud, and he was at Alabama with Will Anderson. They were actually shared the podium together after every game, Jameson and Will Anderson. So you can probably do the appropriate research and figure out what you want to figure out about him from those two guys. So I just think it makes a lot of sense. If you leave the draft with Kelvin Banks on the first 2 days and Jameson Williams, bye-bye. Let's just wait till day 3. Like if you wrap up, if on Saturday we're at Karbach in the Biergarten and we're saying, damn, they got Jameson Williams and Kelvin Banks, and now they're trying to fill some holes on day 3. Hello, that's fine with me. I can definitely get down with that.
I'd do this, and I would actually pick up his 5th-year option as well, because it's really not that much money when you look at it in a 2-year span. Jameson Williams, he makes $15.49 million on the 5th-year option for 2026. His 2025 salary is just, about $5 million if you want to just do the rental option. But if he's really good, then it gets really expensive really fast. You could sort of build in a cost-efficient year if he ends up being good. And why are you trading for him if you don't think he can end up being good? And I'd even be interested in you talked about how do you get there with Detroit. Well, let them move up a few spots in the first, flip-flop 25 and 28, and then maybe you send them one of those third-rounders that the Texans have. And we mentioned earlier this week and last week, Nick Caserio wants to get in the 4th round. Okay, cool. We'll send a 4th-rounder. And, to see what you get here and see if you get that done. I mean, I wouldn't do, straight up the 2nd-round pick for him or anything.
No, I don't think you do that.
But I probably would have interest in trading one of the thirds if you were going to do that. But I like this idea, especially if you pick up the 5th-year option. If you pick up the 5th-year option, then you know that you have at the very least 2 wide receivers that are starters for the next 2 seasons with Nico Collins and Jameson Williams, because Christian Kirk's only a 1-year deal at this current point. So
Kicks Rock says Jameson didn't go to Alabama. LOL. There he is in the Alabama gear. You are in timeout for 5 minutes for spreading false information in this community. So 5-minute timeout. Think about it, figure it out. But yeah, Ohio State to Alabama. I think there's that. Here's the other thing with Jameson Williams. And I get in the chat, a 1-year rental. A 1-year rental for a 3rd-round pick is fine. That's fine, especially when you have the extra equity. That's the worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is one of the most explosive players comes in your building and it doesn't work out. That's worst case scenario. Best case scenario is, just look at it this way. Like Nico Collins and Jameson Williams, with how we talk about the wide receivers right now, whoa, that is kind of a little bit different than we've been looking at. If we're talking Nico Collins and Jameson Williams as a pairing, that's a little bit exciting. And then you sprinkle in some Christian Kirk. That is actually kind of terrifying.
I think it's extremely scary offense to try to stop. And I like it more than what we thought the three-headed monster was going to be a year ago. I like the idea of Jameson Williams, Christian Kirk, and this version of Nico more than what we got last year coming into the year.
Here's the other thing that I think is interesting, and this gets brought up because when you hear that someone did something stupid or they're like in the news for the wrong reasons, like you automatically
and there's no gambling in Texas.
Right. Yes. Well, there is. I'm gambling tonight. But anyways,
nothing that the NFL is going to track, I mean.
Well, here's the thing. And this is because he's had two situations where he's gotten suspended. And one of them was for the gambling that you just mentioned. The other was for performance enhancing. It seems like it was like something Adderall-y. They already brought in one of the guys who got caught gambling for camp from the Colts. And they still like Danico Autry. So it's not like he's done anything that they haven't forgiven before. The other thing is I think they liked him in 2022, and I will take that to my grave. I don't care what they say. When they were drafting 13 overall, and by they I mean Nick Caserio, because he's really the only one that was here. I think they were taking Jameson Williams at 13, but Detroit took him at 12, and that's why they traded back, and that's how they ended up with Kenyon Green. I'm not saying that's true. We'll never know whether that's true, but that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And quite frankly, I was kind of intrigued by the possibility of them drafting him.
They took an injured wide receiver in the second round, so why wouldn't they have been okay with a better wide receiver in the first?
Yep. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, what's with the gambling? The gambling, is there like a big crackdown on it now or something? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, they've if you ever see like a weirdly busy convenience store, but there's nobody in the convenience store, there's usually gambling happening in the back.
Oh, okay. So they're raiding that or something?
Yeah, I think they've been doing some raids across Houston trying
to I saw yesterday. It was probably the corniest tweet that I've ever seen. I'm not trying to pick on Kunkel, but like I said that like the over under in the second half was this, and where should I go? And he like tagged Greg Abbott in it. And I was like, is that funny? Like
I think he was saying that gambling should be legal.
Was he saying it should be legal, or was he being a snitch and a fed? Because Spillane told me that it was.
Dude, he's not being a snitch and a fed. He's saying that the governor should help legalize gambling.
Okay, so maybe
Kunkel Abbott's in favor of it too, by the way.
Oh, okay. So maybe Kunkel was trying to help out. I need to start giving Kunkel
just always just right to the negative with you. Right to the negative with you.
But the Jameson
Kunkel's a snitch.
Maybe I'm just mad because the bet didn't hit because the Warriors decided to kind of dribble the ball out. But that's neither here nor there. So the Jameson Williams thing, I think, just makes a lot of sense. I don't know how it doesn't. How it isn't something that you would consider. He's
better than every wide receiver in this year's draft, with the exception of Travis Hunter.
It changes the whole outlook of the team. It changes like the whole outlook of the team.
More versatility at the wide receiver spot. Like I love the idea, especially because it's not like this is something that's super costly.
Well, it's also not a crazy thing because it has to happen eventually. Like you have to make these tough decisions. You know?
Let me see if I can find out a little bit more about Jameson Williams.
Okay. You doing like some research or something like that?
No. Research. I've done the research. I'm trying to get some inside info.
I bet Will Anderson likes him. I bet he's a fan. On the super chat, Dietology says
You ain't never hate.
Swarm.
OL in the first two. Next year, 3 for Jameson, running back in the third. Hey, don't threaten me with a good time on that. I don't know what the cost is. I just know it's not a first round pick. But
would you? Okay, so let's find the cost. Would you?
Yeah, Cody was making the bet with a bookie. Very obvious. Good pick. Good pick there.
Would you do 89 straight up for Jameson Williams?
Yes.
Would you do 79 straight up for Jameson Williams?
Yes, I would.
Would you do 58 straight up for Jameson Williams?
I would not.
Okay.
I do not think you would have to do that.
Would you do 58, but you get 102 back?
Maybe. Johnny asks, why would Detroit want to get rid of Williams? We just covered that, Johnny. Come on. Rewind. You can rewind on this. because you have to make tough business decisions, and they might be proactively trying to get in front of this before they have to pay a lot of guys.
Because they got a $100 million right tackle, a $60 million left tackle, a $50 million center, a $48 million cornerback. And
Quarterback. They got to pay Hutchinson. They got to pay Gibbs. They got to pay Laporta. They got a hell of a lot of talent. And I'm spoiler alert, Laporta is going to get probably highest paid tight end in the league money. Gibbs is probably going to get top 3 running back money. They might even have like some sort of standoff, and they're going to have to figure that out. So that's the reason why. It's not based on his skills. The other thing is, like, maybe Ben Johnson was just kind of like the whisper there. Who knows? Jameson Williams, no to 58 though.
All right. My Detroit guy says he doesn't think that they'd actually trade him unless they got, quote, a haul. But
Yeah,
he does note the 26-27 cap space issues that they're set to face.
Yeah, 26-27. Texans really haven't hit any cap space issues really at all. And their investment at wide receiver is so small. Like, we always talk about, like, do you have areas where you're paying money? Like, I don't even know if Detroit will be able to afford the option.
Yeah, because it's worth noting the 5th-year option is fully guaranteed.
Yeah, I don't even know if
And
they
then
can afford the option right now.
Once you pick it up, it also fully guarantees a portion of the 4th year as well.
Yeah, so I don't know. Who knows?
Crazier
things have happened.
Which I need to double check. I got to assume that overrides the fact that he lost potential guaranteed money because of the suspensions. So
I don't know. That's
who knows? If it's non-guaranteed money, even better. Because if he sucks after the first year, you can just get rid of him for nothing.
You and Texans cap can break that down, dude.
Oh, $15 million on the salary cap wouldn't make a difference?
No, I'm just saying.
So
just
pressure doesn't matter, and $15 million doesn't matter.
Give me the notes, man. Give me the notes. You guys go to class and break that down. Give me the notes. Give me the answer to the test.
No, how about
I'll put it in my TI 83 plus.
No.
I'll put it in my TI 83 plus.
I'll go into class and I'm not telling you.
Just give me the answers. We're good. Appreciate you. Thanks. So the banks thing is going on. I saw a mock where the Bears actually took him at 10 today, and it was actually one that I actually respect. I think it was Connor Rogers. Kind of enjoy his work. Are you a fan of Connor Rogers' work?
Huge fan of Connor Rogers' work.
Yeah, I like his work.
Huge fan. He does a really good interview series at the Combine. He gets, probably upwards of 40, 50 guys. He does a bunch of interviews, and those few days at the Combine, they're always very good.
Yeah, he had Banks at 10.
I believe it. If he went 9 to New Orleans, I'd understand it. If he went, 12 to the Cowboys, I think Cowboys fans would be pissed, but I'd get it.
Do you think that everybody that's watching tape on Banks knows that he was hurt? Like, how often do you think that slips through the cracks? Because I wonder this because...
To answer your question, no. Not everybody knows.
Yeah, it does seem that way. And quite frankly, I mean, I'm not sitting here saying that that's crazy. The only reason I know is because I watch every Texas game, like, since birth. So I knew that he effed up his foot. I know he was banged up against Georgia. I know he set out the SEC championship. I know he ended up not playing against A&M because his foot was effed up, but he kept playing on it and battled through it as much as he could. So I just couldn't imagine if you're one of those people who just, like, get the tape and you're turning on the tape, because some of the stuff I'm hearing, I'm just like, okay. They're like, yeah, sometimes he's a little bit slow out of the break. And I'm like, well, he was kind of laboring a little bit. So I wonder, like, first of all, I don't think all the guys that say that they watch tape are watching tape. I'm not talking about, like, the Jeremiahs and, like, the guys that have, like, NFL experience. And I don't watch tape, so I'm not, like, on a high horse. I've just seen how much they put into it. And then I just wonder if you're just blindly watching it without knowing the variables, which probably hard to get. Probably have to have the information from it. Because, I mean, a lot of times when you see these guys, they put the tape in. There's, like, the crap, like the 4 views. They're just clicking through, watching each play.
Yeah,
if you don't have, like, the substance.
Context is king. Like, you got to have context for almost everything these guys do. Caserio talked about it last week. He's like, what do these guys get asked to do at their school? How well did they do it? Can we ask them to do something that they couldn't do? The context is really important, and having a not healthy version of Banks still be good. That's good. That should be good context because he still looked like a really solid player with fighting through the injury.
Yeah, I don't know if they.
He's also like O-line's probably one of the only positions where I'd be like, yeah, it's still going to be a little bit more of a grown-up when they get a few years older. He's just turned 21. Like, he's probably got another 2 years, 3 years of growing.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess Peter Schrager, his mock releases tomorrow. I like Peter Schrager a lot. I think that was a good get by ESPN. I'm hoping that Kyle Brandt joins him and they just like let them have their own show and do what they did before, except on like a bigger platform with even more resources. I think that would be cool if Kyle went over there and then they just did the Good Morning Football with those two. Kind of weed out the NFL Live, let them do their own thing. Don't like ruin it. Just stay out of the way. Just like when Inside the NBA goes there, just hey, stay out of the way, ESPN. Move over.
No, they're definitely going to screw that up.
Yeah, just move over a little bit. The media scouts, I think, are getting Kelvin Banks wrong. But who knows? Maybe he falls to the Texans. Maybe they love him.
I bet you the NFL's not.
And the only reason I feel that way is because I watch enough of him to where I'm like that. I also think Matthew Golden's very overrated. Like I like the guy fine, but like top 15 just seems a little bit crazy to me. It just seems crazy. Maybe he'll go do his thing.
I like production at wide receiver, and Golden doesn't have it.
Yeah, he has that play against Arizona State. They keep mentioning like that.
He's not even a 1 year wonder. Like that's not even like he's got a full year of just kicking everybody's ass. He had 4 good games. And he ran fast, and everyone's like, oh, everybody turned into Al Davis all of a sudden.
Yeah, I didn't. And it's also just a weak wide receiver class. One of the weakest ones that I can remember. So there's kind of that factor too. I'm just not, look, I'm wrong. Everyone's wrong this time. I won't lump everyone in. Been wrong about draft guys every year. So, but Matthew Golden, if you told me Matthew Golden was going top 15 up till the game against Ohio State, like if me and my dad would have been sitting there watching that game and he would have said, man, Golden's going to go top 15 in the draft, I'd have been like, let's put 200. You've seen me you know how I'm like when I'm put 200 on that. Put $200 on that. You know exactly the thing. No, I bet 100 on that. I'll bet you $100 right now. He doesn't go top 15.
I'm trying to figure out it. The Cowboys at 12, make a lot of sense there. If Miami was getting ready to be done with the Tyreek Hill situation, maybe Miami. There's some teams that Denver at 20. I don't know. I wouldn't trade up for Matthew Golden. That'd be picks poorly spent.
Yeah, I would not. Rangy says I sent you an email. You can check it. I'll check the email. There's a lot of spam to go through on there, though, man. Like, don't be offering me like a something crazy. But yeah, I'll check my email a little bit later. That's on the soup. Spam email's gotten a little crazy, bro. I'm worried about my mom. It's like, hey, your UPS package, you missed it. Click the link. And I'm like, my mom would definitely click that.
Or like, oh, you have unpaid tolls. And I'm
yeah,
like,
come on. I ain't paying my tolls anyway.
The hilarious part is when the scammers get it wrong and their link's not even like, a link is working because it's blue. The link's not even like they didn't type the link in the right way. And it's like, you can't even scam me because you don't even know how to send the right scam text. Yeah, like, and I also think you can use it to get out of jury duty and stuff. Like in a hypothetical world, it's like, man, I don't trust any of this mail. Like, I don't trust anything that I get. Nothing you send me. I don't trust it. No.
So, yeah, emails, calls, texts, everything, calling, all that.
They've done a bunch. Like I think email services have done a better job of kind of getting through the
There's
getting the spam ones out, but
there's
the calls is still ridiculous.
There's two dumbass things that I've done the last 2 days, in the last like 2 months where
just two.
that I'll mention here.
Okay.
So I got my colonoscopy. They found something in there. They took it out. I was kind of like, oh no, please, 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 please. And I was waiting for the results. He said, yeah, we'll get it to you like inside of 2 weeks or whatever. I was like, okay. So 2.5 weeks goes by. I call the doctor. I leave a message. I'm with you. I didn't even tell you this. I just told you I got the news, but there's a little bit more to the story. I was actually out with you and Kunkel eating, friendly Kunkel who wants to legalize gambling with effort. So shout out to him. But the doctor calls me, gives me like a full breakdown. Great dude, awesome guy. He tells me everything's good, everything's okay, blah, 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 blah. And then he also throws in, yeah, I actually called you a week ago. And I was like, no, he said a week and a half ago, like very shortly after. And I was like, okay. So I went and I listened to my voicemail, and sure enough, there was an in detail, like all this time I'm waiting for like.
He gave you the breakdown on the voicemail?
But spams leave voicemail now. So like if it's a number I don't know and it's a voicemail, like now it's just like it just goes there. But it was like an in-depth voicemail. Like all this time I'm talking about it, like I'm just sitting around, and he had actually left me like a nice voicemail.
You don't get the text message recapping the voicemail?
No, not always. Not always.
Yeah.
I don't know how to set that up, but not always. And then yesterday, I'm going to listen to D'Amico. And I'm in the gas station line out there, one of my favorite corner stops on Gessner. And there's some girl there, and she seems a little bit embarrassed. I don't know what's going on, but she's like sitting in line. She's like looking to her phone or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And she just goes, hey, you can go in front of me. And I was like, all right. So I went in front of her, got 2 coffees, like 2 little like Starbucks coffees, the nitros. And as I'm walking out, she's like walking out, and you can tell she's kind of embarrassed. She's talking to someone in the car, and she's like, did you put the $5 in? Like she's saying $5. And I'm like, oh, damn. So I go to my car, and I notice that I have a little bit of cash in the middle, like $5. So I'm like, do I offer her this, or is she like going to act like extra offended? Like I'm some sort of asshole, like, or whatever. So I was like, hey, you want $5? Like just, she wasn't begging. She wasn't doing anything. I just tell she was embarrassed.
She needed $5.
I said, hey, you want this 5? She looked at me like I was like insulting her. And I was just like, okay, well, there you go. So then I get in my car. I'm driving off. And
no good deed goes unpunished.
All of a sudden, I'm driving off, and I hear a boom, thump. And I'm like, what the hell? I look back. I'd left the damn coffee cans on the top of my freaking car. So my deed cost me like twice as much. One of them like stayed on the top. The other one just boom, shatters in the middle. So like the nice deed effed me over.
No good deed goes unpunished. So she didn't take the money?
No, she was offended.
Wow.
I mean, she seemed, I don't know if it was for cigarettes. I don't know what it was. It wasn't gas. She wasn't parked at the gas tank. So it wasn't like she like needed gas.
Okay.
But I don't know. She was going in, and they didn't transfer it or whatever. But I just bam the damn coffee, just boom. Nitros too. So she didn't take the 5, but it cost me 4 because I backtracked because they were like $4 nitro coffees.
Now do you buy 2 because they're on sale? This was an old energy drink thing with you.
No. They were just there. They're just the last 2 black Starbucks. But the thing about it is that it didn't happen until I got on the road. So they actually kind of were I guess they were surfing a little bit, and the one fell like in the corner thing, but this one just boomed. It didn't happen like right as I left the gas station.
Gotcha.
Yep. Sean James, little movie stuff before we get out of here, because this is very popular. He said, Landry, side note, heard your Sinners comment about the vampire portion. FYI, that part doesn't come into play until an hour into the film. Still recommend you see it. So I really want to see this movie. I haven't seen a movie get this much reviews. I'm just not into vampires and eating and crap like that. Like I thought it was just going to be like a nice old school Michael B. Jordan presentation, but I'm hearing a lot of stuff about it. I'm not into the vampires. I'm not into the horror films. They were talking about it today at the Texans. This movie. So It's getting a lot of love. Just doesn't work out.
So that's a no. You're not going to go see it.
No, I'm not. I don't want to see a vampire. Like you know how I am. I don't want to see a Marvel movie. Like even like a movie where guys are flying and claws are coming out of their hands. That expired in 5th grade. I know you and your buddies go line up and wear y'all's uniforms and go watch like Marvel comics and all that crap. Like different strokes for different folks. I'm not into it.
Didn't know you were going to be an entertainment shamer, but you know,
no, I'm just saying different.
That's what you are. You know, you're an entertainment shamer.
I watch.
If it brings other people joy and it doesn't bring you joy, they're losers. That's how you operate.
Reality TV. It's all good.
Yeah, because the reality TV is definitely real.
Yeah, go get your Chewbacca costume on and get ready. I heard they're dropping another Star. Yeah, get ready for that. I'm good on that. All right. So to recap, Gardner Johnson, Super Bowl or bust. Albert Breer, Texans potential trade. Jamison Williams, if he's available, the Texans should be in on it. And we are
fake, it's not real.
Say it again.
Pressure is fake. It's not real.
Yeah, that did not happen. That was a different. I'm not hating. I'm just saying I don't watch it. There's no hating. There's a lot of stuff. Too cool. I watch reality TV. There's nothing cool about reality TV. That's a confession by me. Most people don't like reality TV. I like stupid stuff. So that's fine. Spoiler alert. Superman's gonna win. He's gonna win. He'll be back. I don't want to spoil it for you. X-Men are gonna prevail. It'll be okay. All right. On that note.
It feels like you think you did something there, but it's really, I don't think you did.
Remember when this was a long time ago. Well, how long was this? 15 years ago?
I already know what story you're going to tell.
When you went with all the 7-year-olds to see Marvel comics and you told me to have an open mind and I couldn't get through 4 minutes. So I went and watched an Adam Sandler, Drew Barrymore movie, which actually wasn't terrible. And then your movie ended and you had to stay there for 30 minutes with the 6-year-old kid.
30 minutes is an extreme exaggeration.
You had to stay there for 30 minutes to see like some emperor at the end or something like that.
Yeah, they do teasers at the end of the credits.
Yes. And you were so offended that I was
the entertainment shamer. If it doesn't entertain him, it shouldn't entertain you.
No, it's different strokes. Dude, I would never get an Android. That's a joke. That would not be considered by me. iPhone all day. Anyway. 51 first. I don't know if it was 51 first dates. I think it might have been like the blended or something. Not sure. I think it was like
we haven't gone and seen very many movies together, but the worst ever was when we saw Shutter Island, and it took you the whole movie to figure it out, and I figured it out in the first 5 minutes.
That's a lie. I told you.
You were like, "Whoa!"
I told you what happened in that. That's a lie. That he is lying. He's lying worse than D'Amico and Caserio lying season. He's lying big time.
First 5 minutes.
Nah, he had no idea. He had no idea at all. No idea. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Oh, DeRhino says iPhone is for grandparents. I would disagree with that. That's a little hipstery.
But then hand me my AARP card because I'm not ever using anything but an iPhone.
Appreciate y'all for coming through. Subscribe, like, ride along. Always remember when it comes to this Texan stuff, we're all in it together.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.
Hold on for 6 minutes. I got to see the preview to the next show.
One day we're going to put a trailer at the end of this for something that we're doing in the future.
Let me get my popcorn and my Marvel cup and let's get ready.
It was just a regular souvenir cup. It wasn't a Marvel cup.